Moments like these, a sea turtle gliding past, a pelican soaring above at the end of a beach day, or a giant whale leaping out of the waves, remind us how extraordinary our world is, with so much life around us. And when these animals needed us the most, we chose to act. Back in 1973, President Nixon signed the Endangered Species Act, or ESA, into law with bipartisan support. This created one of the most comprehensive safety nets in the world for vulnerable plants, animals, and their habitats. In fact, it's been so successful, it's prevented 99% of the species under its care from going extinct. I'll say that louder for the back, 99%! But despite its proven success, the ESA now faces its own threats from attacks from Congress and the administration that aim to dismantle core protections, weaken regulations, and prioritize commercial interests over vulnerable wildlife. Any bad decision today that leads to the extinction of a species is not one we can recover from. The positive impacts and results of the ESA speak for themselves. Let's look back at 5 remarkable marine animals that this landmark law made all the difference for. You are what you eat, and that is certainly the case for the green sea turtle. Their insides have a unique green hue from the marine plants that they eat, which is how they got their name. For a long time, these large herbivores were hunted heavily for their meat, their shells, their eggs, pushing them to the brink of extinction. Even after poaching was banned in the US, they still suffered from multiple threats, like getting caught in fishing gear, being struck by boats, and the destruction of the beaches where they nest and lay their eggs. But in 1978, green sea turtles got a lifeline from the Endangered Species Act. Recovery plans introduced fishing gear modifications like turtle excluder devices that allow these animals to escape shrimp nets, and protections for their nesting beaches and other critical habitat. And the result has been nothing short of incredible. In Florida alone, green sea turtle nests skyrocketed from nearly 0 in 1978 to over 200,000 in recent years. Now let's go to one of the original success stories of the Endangered Species Act. In the late 19th century, brown pelicans were hunted aggressively because their feathers were prized in high fashion. Then in the 1950s, these iconic coastal birds faced a new threat from a pesticide you may have heard of, DDT. This toxic chemical got into the food chain, causing the pelicans' eggshells to thin and crack before the chicks could even hatch. Their numbers plummeted drastically. But things turned around in 1970 when they were listed as endangered under the predecessor to the ESA. Then 2 years later, the US Environmental Protection Agency banned DDT. And with their habitat later protected by the ESA, and with the toxic chemical out of their environment, the pelicans bounced back. In fact, by 2009, they were officially removed from the endangered species list. Today, they soar along North America's coast as a powerful reminder that this law works. Not only are these animals universally accepted as adorable, but they come with pockets. Sea otters use rocks to crack open shellfish and then stash their favorite rocks in pockets of loose skin in their armpit. But their incredibly dense fur, which keeps them warm while they float and dive in the cold Pacific Ocean, made them a major target of the fur trade. By the 1900s, their population had crashed to less than a few thousand. But here's the good news. Thanks to the Endangered Species Act, sea otters are making a comeback. And this return has far-reaching impacts for our Pacific coastal waters because it turns out sea otters are a keystone species. Just like the keystone at the top of a stone arch, sea otters keep their ecosystem in balance by eating the urchins that would otherwise clear-cut our marine coastal habitats. These habitats are crucial because they store carbon, they support fisheries, and provide shelter to tons of other species. We're not totally in the clear yet though, as southern sea otters are still listed as threatened and only occupy 13% of their historical range. This is why the ESA is still so important today. The sea otter's survival depends on the protections it offers. Humpback whales are one of the most iconic marine mammals out there. These giants travel extraordinary distances every year, with some populations swimming all the way from their feeding grounds in Alaska to Hawaii so they can give birth in warmer waters. Unfortunately, like other large whales, the humpback was once a target for the whaling industry, which harvested their blubber to produce oil for lamps and industrial use. Scientists estimate that this relentless hunting caused their numbers to drop by a shocking 95%. The Endangered Species Act helped establish safeguards for the humpback whale in 1973, and the global community followed suit with an international ban on whaling in 1985. With strong protections in place, humpbacks could finally swim and leap to their heart's desire without being hunted. In 2016, scientists confirmed that the Hawaii population had recovered and was taken off the list of species protected by the ESA. So you might be asking, are humpback whales still endangered? Well, sadly, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. While some humpback populations have rebounded, others, like those that spend winters along the Central American Pacific and feed off the coast of California, Oregon, and Washington, remain vulnerable to extinction. Even though whales are no longer hunted, they still face a serious threat from being entangled in fishing gear. The ESA is spurring action by state governments to find ways to prevent entanglements and keep fishermen fishing. The stories of these two populations show that the journey to a full species recovery, like a humpback whale's migration, is long and rarely straightforward. But without key laws like the ESA, it's a journey far too difficult to finish. With a wingspan that can reach up to 26 feet, the giant manta ray is the largest ray in the world. These angelic elasmobranchs are also the smartest fish in the world, with especially developed areas for learning, problem solving, and communicating. Giant manta rays may even recognize themselves in mirrors, a sign of self-awareness that only a few other animals have passed. Unfortunately, these filter feeders were decimated by commercial fishing. Manta ray gill plates are highly valuable in international trade, and these rays are also caught in bycatch. All of this meant the population took a huge hit, especially since manta rays reproduce very slowly, making it hard for them to recover. Thankfully, giant manta rays were listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act in 2018. Now, extensive research and recovery efforts are underway. Scientists are using satellite tags to track their movements, identifying vital nursery habitats in places like the Gulf of Mexico, and developing safe handling guidelines to ensure fishermen can release them unharmed. It's a critical, ongoing mission to keep these ocean acrobats gliding through our waters. These are just some of the amazing animal comebacks that show us the power of the Endangered Species Act. Stories of animals like the brown pelican, the green sea turtle, and the sea otter are reminders that our landmark law works, but only if we fight for a strong ESA. Moves to sidestep or weaken or even gut the ESA put these iconic species and others at risk of disappearing out of our coastal waters and out of our oceans. And that is why we need your voice now. Follow the link in the description to find out how you can help.